Hey Lions, I'm so excited to continue reading Wonder with you. Now, before we go into the next chapter, I want to go back to the chapter we read called An Apparition at the Door. Apparition, that's not a word I use very often, either in speaking or in writing. One thing that's really cool, when you read a lot, you can expand your vocabulary. In other words, words you use in your own writing or words you use when you speak, because authors will introduce you to new words. So, apparition is, really a new word. Now, one thing that's cool is when you come across a new word, I use some highlighting tape um, to try to figure out what does apparition mean. And so I highlighted the clues. So even right in the title, it says an apparition at the door. So the title here gives me a clue that whatever an apparition is, it was standing at a door. And then when I went down further, it says Via was describing her mom. Remember, Via was thirsty. She got up in the middle of the night to get a drink. And she's talked about her mom. She said she was just standing right outside the door. So this gave me a clue. The title gave me a clue that whatever an apparition is, it was standing at the door. And then this sentence talked about mom was standing at the door. Okay, so has something to do with mom at the door. And then I read on and it said the only thing illuminating her was the blue nightlight in August's bedroom. She looked ghost-like standing there. So when I put together the clue from the title, the clue that it was mom standing at the door, and then this clue where it said she looked ghost like standing at the door, that helps me to figure out that an apparition must be something that looks like a ghost. Now, in this particular case, it was Augie and Via's mom that looked like a ghost. But just generally speaking, I now know an apparition must be something that looks like a ghost. And if I had to pick, so I had three clues here: apparition at the door, that was clue number one. Clue number two is where it said that mom was just standing outside of the door. And then clue number three was she looked ghost like standing there. So if I had to pick one of those clues that was the best clue for figuring out the word, I think I would say clue number three. She looked ghost-like standing there. Otherwise, I would just think that an apparition was someone standing at a door. But now I know because of that clue, it is something that looks ghost-like. So I encourage you to do that, readers. When you are reading a new story, pay attention to the new vocabulary and then go back and use the clues to try to figure out what the vocabulary means. That's what a good reader does. And then here's the next challenge. Try to use that new word when you're speaking or in your own writing. So maybe you can try to write a story that has an apparition in it, or impress someone at home and tell them something about this new word apparition. Okay. I certainly hope nobody sees any apparitions. Okay, let's read on. So the next chapter is called Out with the Old. Miranda and Ella blasted off. They attached themselves to a new crowd destined for high school glory. After a week of painful lunches where all they would do was talk about people that didn't interest me, I decided to make a clean break for it. They asked no questions. I told no lies. We just went our separate ways. You know what, guys? That happens sometimes. I know our fifth graders will be going into middle school, and it's okay to make new friends. You certainly never want to make enemies with people that were, a big part of your life in the past, but it's okay to make new friends. And I encourage you, especially if you're moving on to the middle school next year, but anytime, always surround yourself with friends that make you feel better, that leave your heart in a better place. That's what a true friend does. Okay, sorry. I digress. Let's go ahead and continue reading. I didn't even mind after a while. I stopped going to lunch for about a week, though, to make the transition easier, to avoid the fake, oh, shoot, there's no room for you at the table, Olivia. It was easier just to go to the library and read. I finished War and Peace in October. It was amazing. People think it's such a hard read, but it's really just a soap opera with lots of characters. People falling in love, fighting for love, dying for love. I want to be in love like that someday. I want my husband to love me the way Prince Andrei, I don't think I said that right, loved Natasha. So obviously characters in the story that she was reading. I ended up hanging out with a girl named Eleanor, who I'd known from my days at PS 22, though we'd gone to different middle schools. Eleanor had always been a really smart girl, a little bit of a crybaby back then, but nice. I never realized how funny she was. Not laugh out loud, daddy funny, but full of great quips. And she never knew how lighthearted I could be. Eleanor, I guess, had always been under the impression that I was very serious. And as it turns out, she never liked Miranda and Ella. She thought they were stuck up. So, it's really cool what Via is learning, or Olivia is learning, that maybe people that you didn't have a strong bond with earlier in elementary school, you might find that once you get to middle and high school, you have more in common than you thought. So always give people a chance. Okay, sorry, I digressed again. Okay, back to the story. I gained entry through Eleanor to the smart kids table at lunch. It was a larger group than I'd been accustomed to hanging out with, and a more diverse crowd. It included Eleanor's boyfriend, Kevin, who would definitely become class president someday, a few techie guys, girls like Eleanor, who were members of the yearbook committee and the debate club, and a quiet guy named Justin, who had a small round glasses and played the violin, and who I had an instant crush on. When I'd see Miranda and Ella, who were now hanging out with this super popular set, we'd say, hey, what's up? And move on. Occasionally, Miranda would ask me how August was doing, and then say, tell him I said hello. This I never did. Not to spite Miranda, but because August was in his own world these days. There were times at home that we never crossed paths. October 31. Remember when we read it from Augie's point of view? Oh, goodness. Remember that was the day he went to school. He was feeling on top of the world. He dressed up as, I think it was Scream with the mask. And then they didn't know it was him, and he overheard Jack Will talking about him. Remember, that was the crushing day for him. Let's find out how this day was from Via, from her point of view. October 31. Grands had died the night before Halloween. Since then, even though it's been 4 years, this has always been a sad time of year for me. For Mom, too, though she doesn't always say it. Instead, she immerses herself in getting August's costume ready, since we all know Halloween is his favorite time of year. This year was no different. August really wanted to be a Star Wars character called Boba Fett. So Mom looked for a Boba Fett costume in August's size, which, strangely enough, was out of stock everywhere. She went to every online store, found a few on eBay that were going for an outrageous amount, and finally ended up buying a Jango Fett costume that she then converted into a Boba Fett costume by painting it green. I would say, in all, she must have spent 2 weeks working on this stupid costume. And no, I won't mention the fact that Mom has never made any of my costumes, because it really has no bearing on anything at all. I think it might. I think that's a little glimpse into how Via feels. I think she's feeling a little left out. The morning of Halloween, I woke up thinking about Grands, which made me really sad and weepy. Dad kept telling me to hurry up and get dressed, which just stressed me out even more. And suddenly I started crying. I just wanted to stay home. Wow. So remember when we read from Augie's point of view, He was like, "What's up with Via? She's yelling, she's crying." But now that we hear from her point of view, it's because she was missing her grandmother, because it was like the anniversary of when she had passed away. Now it makes so much more sense. So you see how we should never judge people. If people are acting a certain way and it just seems silly from the outside, you never know what's going on in their heart. So we should always give people the benefit of the doubt. Okay. So Dad took August to school that morning, and Mom said I could stay home, and the two of us cried together for a while. One thing I knew for sure, however much I missed Grands, Mom must have missed her more. All those times August was clinging to life after a surgery, all those rush trips to the ER, Grands had always been there for Mom. It felt good to cry with Mom, for both of us. At some point, Mom had the idea of our watching The Ghost Mrs. Muir together, which was one of her all-time favorite black and white movies. I agreed that that was a great idea. I think I probably would have used this weeping session as an opportunity to tell Mom everything that was going on at school with Miranda and Ella. But just as we were sitting down in front of the DVD player, the phone rang. It was a nurse from August's school calling to tell Mom that August had a stomach ache and that she should pick him up. So much for the old movies and the mother-daughter bonding. Mom picked August up, and the moment he came home, he went straight to the bathroom and threw up. Then he went to his bed and pulled his covers over his head. Mom took his temperature, brought him some hot tea, and assumed the August's mom role again. Via's mom, who had come out for a little while, was put away. I understood, though. August was in bad shape. Neither one of us asked him why he had worn his bleeding scream costume to school instead of Boba Fett costume that Mom had made for him. If it annoyed Mom to see the costume she'd worked on for 2 weeks tossed on the floor, unused, she didn't show it. Wow. If this author had not switched the viewpoint, so we know it's written in first person, but if this author had not switched the viewpoint from Via's first person point of view, we never would have even known that Via had stayed home with her mom and she was having this really special time with her mom. Her mom was comforting her because she was missing her grandmother, and Via was comforting Mom because of it. And it all stopped just like that because August ended up coming home from school. We never would have known that had the author not switched the viewpoint from Augie to Via. So that was such a clever technique that this author used. And that's something you could try in your own writing too. It's really difficult because August was really hurting and he needed the attention from Mom, and Via was really hurting and needed the attention from Mom. Um, you know, it can be hard being the child, and it can be really hard being the parent too. A lot of times, we always try our best, and we don't always get it 100% right. But one thing I can tell you, we all care about you, lions. We may not get it right every time, but we care so much about you, your teachers, your family, your friends, and we're all in this together. All right, let's read Trick or Treat, the next chapter. August said he wasn't feeling well enough to go trick or treating later in the afternoon, which was sad for him because I know how much he loved trick or treat, especially after it got dark outside. Even though I was well beyond the trick or treating stage myself, I usually threw on some mask or other to accompany him up and down the blocks, watching him knocking on people's doors, giddy with excitement. I knew it was the one night of the year which he could truly be like every other kid. No one knew he was different under the mask. To August, that must have felt absolutely amazing. At 7 o'clock that night, I knocked on his door. "Hey," I said. "Hey," he said back. He wasn't using his PlayStation or reading a comic book. He was just lying in his bed looking at the ceiling. Daisy, as always, was next to him on the bed, her head draped over his legs. The bleeding scream costume was crumpled up on the floor next to the Boba Fett costume. How's your stomach? I said, sitting next to him on the bed. I'm still nauseous. You're sure you're not up for the Halloween parade? Positive. This surprised me. Usually, August was such a trooper about his medical issues, whether it was skateboarding for a few days after a surgery or sipping food through a straw when his mouth was practically bolted shut. This was a kid who's gotten more shots, taken more medicines, put up with more procedures by the age of 10 than most people would put up in 10 lifetimes. And he was sidelined from a little nausea? She knows something is up. You can tell Via genuinely cares and loves about her brother Augie. You want to tell me what's up? I said, sounding a bit like Mom. No. Is it school? Yes. Teachers? Schoolwork? Friends? He didn't answer. Did someone say something? I asked. People always say something, he answered bitterly. I could tell he was close to crying. Tell me what happened, I said. And he told me what had happened. He had overheard some very mean things some boys were saying about him. He didn't care about what the other boys had said. He expected that, but he was hurt that one of the boys was his best friend, Jack Will. I remember his mentioning Jack a couple of times over the past few months. I remembered Mom and Dad saying he seemed like a really nice kid, saying they were glad August had already made a friend like that. Sometimes kids are stupid, I said softly, holding his hand. I'm sure he didn't mean it. Then why would he say it? He's been pretending to be my friend all along. Tushman probably bribed him with good grades or something. I bet you he was like, hey, Jack, if you make friends with the freak, you don't have to take any tests this year. You know that's not true. And don't call yourself a freak. Whatever. I wish I'd never gone to school in the first place. But I thought you were liking it. I hate it. He was angry all of a sudden, punching his pillow. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. He was shrieking at the top of his lungs. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. He was hurt. He was mad. I let him have a few more minutes of his fury. Daisy started licking the tears off his face. Come on, Augie, I said, patting his back gently. Why don't you put on your Jango Fett costume and... It's a Boba Fett costume. Why does everyone mix that up? Boba Fett costume, I said, trying to stay calm. I put my arm around his shoulders. Let's just go to the parade, okay? If I go to the parade, Mom will think I'm feeling better and make me go to school tomorrow. Mom will never make you go to school, I answered. Come on, Augie. Let's just go. It'll be fun, I promise, and I'll let you have all my candy. He didn't argue. He got out of bed and slowly started pulling on his Boba Fett costume. I helped him adjust the straps and tighten the belt, and by the time he put his helmet on, I could tell he was feeling better. Wow. I think that's some family. Ooh, here it is. Family is a common theme in text, and it is something we felt is a theme that had emerged here. And boy, I think this is a great example, some great text evidence that family is an important theme in this text. So I'm going to get my sticky notes and I'm going to mark this page so that, because we know good readers, when they're done reading for the day, they go back to the pages they marked and then they paraphrase what that evidence is. So I'm going to do that now and I'll show you my evidence tomorrow when we start reading. All right, Lions, I hope you have a fantastic day. I cannot wait to get back to this story. Bye.